You wouldn't believe why this Ajo Masquerade ate his own worshippers. In the quiet village of Umueze, life moves slowly, like the gentle flow of the stream behind the village square. Every morning, roosters crowed before the sun rose. Women swept their compounds, and children chased each other barefoot on dusty paths. Mango trees stood like old guardians, shading laughter and secrets. In the evenings, men returned from their farms, their feet coated in red sand, their faces marked with the day's struggle, yet smiling with pride. Life was simple, peaceful, predictable. But all of that changed one warm evening when the elders gathered in the village square. For many years, the elders avoided one topic, one festival, one name: the Ajo Masquerade. Nobody talked about it openly. If anyone tried, old people would quickly shake their heads and whisper, "Leave that matter. It is not for your mouth." It had been 30 long years since the masquerade last appeared. Most of the younger ones had only heard fragments of stories. Stories that told in low tones. Stories that sounded more like warnings than entertainment. Some people said the masquerade was a spirit and not a human being inside a costume. Some said it walked with no shadow. Some even said that when it danced, the ground breathed. But the elders, the ones who knew the truth, they remained silent. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange, the town crier stepped into the village square. His gong rang sharply in the quiet air. Children stopped playing. Goats paused mid-chew. Even the wind seemed to listen. The town crier raised his voice. "Let all families prepare. Let every household be warned. The Ajo Masquerade will walk again in 3 days." The sound traveled through every compound. Women looked at their children and held them close, like something in the air had suddenly become dangerous. Men exchanged serious glances. Some fear, some curiosity, some excitement that felt wrong and thrilling. But beneath all the reactions, a heavy silence filled the village. It was the silence of old memories trying to wake up. Among those who felt excitement was a young man named Obinna. Obinna was known in Umueze for 3 things. He was stubborn, he was curious, and he was fearless, sometimes foolishly so. He had grown up hearing whispers about the masquerade, stories that claimed it was not just a costume worn by a man, but a living spirit with its own hunger. Some said the masquerade once took people. Some said it asked for sacrifice. Some even said that the festival was stopped because too many people vanished. But Obinna didn't believe any of that. To him, it was just a tale to scare children. He laughed whenever others spoke in fear. "How can cloth and raffia walk by itself?" he would say. "Masquerades are only men, nothing more." But deep inside him, some part of him wanted to see it for himself, wanted to get close, wanted to know the truth. And that curiosity was about to open a door that should have remained closed. That night, the moon hung low and yellow over the rooftops. Crickets chirped loudly, and the wind whispered through the palm trees. Obinna sat outside, sharpening his cutlass, pretending not to think about the festival. But his mind was restless. As he stood to go inside, he heard his name in a shaky voice. "Obinna, come." It was his grandmother, Obioma. She was sitting on her wooden stool near the fire. The flame made her face look old and tired, showing every wrinkle of the years she had lived. Obinna walked closer, and he noticed something different about her eyes. They were not calm, not this time. She patted the ground beside her. "My son, sit." Obinna sat down slowly. He had never heard his grandmother sound like that before. Her voice trembled like a talking drum beaten by a weak hand.
"Stay away from that masquerade," she said. Obinna tried to smile, tried to keep his voice light. "But, Mama, it is just tradition, just festival. Everybody will be there. Why should I?" Before he could finish, her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for her age. It felt like she wasn't just holding his arm, she was holding his life. "It is not tradition," she said, her voice low and heavy. "It is punishment." Obinna stopped smiling. He had never seen fear in his grandmother's eyes, not when a cobra entered their compound, not during storms, not even the night thieves came to steal the family's yam. But now she looked truly afraid. His heart began to beat faster. "Mama," he said quietly, "what happened? Why is everyone afraid of this masquerade?" Obioma's eyes did not look at him. They looked far away, as if she was staring into a memory she wished she could bury forever. "The last time the Ajo Masquerade walked, 20 young men vanished," she began, her voice barely louder than the crackling fire. "Vanished," Obinna cried. "Vanished how?" "They were there in the morning. They joined the procession. They danced behind the masquerade. And then, nothing," she whispered. "They were never seen again. Not alive, not dead. No graves, no bodies. Just gone." The fire popped. Obinna felt chills crawl across his skin. "But why bring it back now?" he asked. Obioma sucked in a shaky breath, her hands trembling slightly. "The village is suffering. The farms are dry. The streams are shrinking. Businesses are failing. The elders believe sacrifice brings blessings. They think the masquerade brings wealth if it is fed." Obinna repeated. "Fed?" his voice cracking.
Then the elders came. They walked slowly, forming a straight line. They wore red cloth tied around their waists and shoulders. Their faces were painted black, smooth and shiny like oil. Their eyes were serious, empty of any warmth. They began to chant, not the ordinary songs of joy. This was old language, language older than books, older than stories, a language only ancestors remembered. Their voices rose and fell like waves. The ground vibrated slightly with every drum beat. And then the masquerade appeared. Ajo. At first, it was just a shadow behind the torches. But as it stepped forward, the firelight revealed its form. Its mask was carved from Iroko wood, dark and polished by time. The eyes of the mask were deep holes, empty, yet they felt alive. The costume was not like other masquerades people were used to. This one wore layers of raffia, feathers of black birds, animal skull fragments, dried claws and bones sewn into its chest and shoulders. But that was not the frightening part. The frightening part was how it moved. It did not move like a person trapped inside a costume. It moved like something that had bones of its own. It swayed, breathed, and its chest rose and fell like a living creature. It did not step. It glided. Smooth. Silent. Hungry. Women gasped and held their children close. Some children started crying, but their mothers quickly covered their mouths before sound escaped. A few old men looked away, unable to watch. The masquerade made a low sound. Not a drum, not a human voice. Something animal, something hungry. Obinna's heart thudded in his chest. His grandmother's warning echoed in his mind. He tried to tell himself it was just a man inside, just a costume, just tradition. But then, the masquerade turned, slowly. Its head shifted with a smoothness that no human neck should have. It looked across the crowd, and then its empty eye holes locked onto Obinna. It did not blink. It did not shift away. It stared at him, directly, as if it already knew his name, as if it had been waiting. Obinna felt his whole body go cold. His legs refused to move. His breath caught in his throat. Everyone around him bowed their heads except him.
That night, after the dance, the village changed. For a moment, it was as if fear had never existed. Palm wine flowed freely. Women brought out pots of hot pepper soup. Men roasted good meat on open fires. Children ran around chasing sparks from burning firewood. Drums played, voices rose in song. People laughed again, loudly, carelessly, as if they had forgotten the heavy silence from earlier. They danced until their feet were dusty and their clothes stuck to their skin with sweat. Even the elders smiled, their earlier seriousness fading like smoke. It felt like Umueze had come back to life. But the masquerade remained. It stood in the shadows, watching. Never eating, never drinking. Just watching. Nobody spoke to it. Nobody touched it. Nobody even breathed too close to it. And when the feast ended, people returned to their homes, full and happy, their bellies warm with food and wine. The torches dimmed. The drums stopped. Night swallowed the village. The next morning, the air felt different. The sun rose slowly, as if unsure it wanted to see what would happen. Then, the scream came. A scream that tore through the quiet morning like lightning. A mother's scream. The villagers rushed out of their houses. At the center of the village stood Chisom's mother. Her wrapper was loose, her hair scattered, her eyes wild with terror. She cried, her voice breaking. "My son! Where is my son? Somebody tell me where my son is!" Her voice echoed through the village. Chisom was a boy everyone knew. He laughed too loud. He told silly jokes. He played pranks that sometimes annoyed people, but they still loved him. He was light. He was joy. And now, he was gone. No one saw him leave the celebration. No one saw him walk home. No one heard him call for help. It was as if he had simply vanished into the night. His mother fell on the ground, beating her chest in pain. "Chisom, my son, my joy, my only child, where are you?" But instead of comforting her, the elders stepped forward. Their faces were calm. Too calm. One of them raised his hand. "Woman, be silent," he said. Her crying stopped, not because she wanted to, but because the tone of his voice froze her. The elder continued, "The gods have blessed us. Do not cry. This is a good sign." A good sign. A mother's child was missing, and they called it good. Some villagers looked away, pretending to tie wrappers, pretending to sweep, pretending to care about anything except her pain. No one dared question the elders. No one. Except the few whose hearts still remembered how to feel. Obinna stood at the edge of the crowd. He did not speak. He did not move, but his heart was pounding inside his chest like a drum about to tear. He remembered his grandmother's voice. "They are willing to feed it again." He felt something cold settle in his stomach. Fear.
That night, Obinna lay on his raffia mat, staring at the dark ceiling of his hut. He did not blink much. Sleep refused to come. His mind replayed every drumbeat, every chant, every moment the masquerade's hollow eyes stared at him. The night was too quiet, too still. Obinna sat up, his breath shaky. He tried to tell himself it was just his imagination, just the memory of the festival. But then he heard whispers, low voices, like wind passing through dried leaves. But the wind was not blowing. The voices grew clearer, closer, calling his name. His skin crawled. He looked around his small room. Shadows stretched across the walls like long fingers. The whispers came again, directly outside his window. His heart pounded. He wanted to hide under his mat. He wanted to call for his grandmother. But something stronger than fear pulled him forward. He slowly walked to the window. His hand shook as he pushed the wooden flap open. What he saw made his entire body turn cold. Chisom stood there, but not like Chisom he knew. Not the boy who laughed too much. Not the boy who joked with everyone. This Chisom looked wrong. His skin was pale, like all the blood had been drained from it. His eyes were empty, hollow, staring without seeing. His mouth was open, twisted, like he had been screaming for a long time but no sound came out. And around his neck were red markings, the same symbol Obinna had seen on the masquerade staff, the symbol that looked like a claw. Obinna stumbled back, falling onto the floor. His breath came out in short, broken gasps. Chisom did not move forward. He only stared. Then, slowly, he raised his finger to his lips, a gesture of silence. His voice, when it came, did not sound like a voice at all. It sounded like wind passing through bones. Obinna's eyes widened. His hands gripped the floor. Obinna stayed on the floor, shaking, sweat dripping down his face, his heart thundering like a trapped animal. He clutched his chest. This was no tradition. This was no celebration. Something had been awakened, something that had not eaten enough yet.
The next evening, as the sun began to slide behind the tall palm trees, Obinna made a decision. He could no longer stay quiet. He could no longer pretend not to know. His heart felt heavy, like a stone tied to his chest. He left his grandmother sleeping and walked straight to the elder's shrine. The shrine sat at the edge of the village, near the thick forest. Tall trees surrounded it, their branches twisting like arms trying to hide secrets. Red cloths hung from the entrance, swaying slowly in the evening wind. People usually knocked before entering. People bowed their heads. People removed their sandals. But Obinna did none of those. He pushed the shrine door open and walked inside. The elders were seated in a circle around a small fire. The flames flickered and made their painted faces look dark and shadowed. The air smelled of incense, palm oil, and something old, something rotten. Obinna's anger burned inside him like fire. "You feed people to that thing," he said, his voice shaking but strong. The elders did not gasp. They did not shout. They did not even look surprised. The eldest among them, Chief Okonko, lifted his eyes slowly. His beard was right. His skin was wrinkled like old leather, but his gaze was sharp, cold, and steady. He spoke softly, like someone discussing the weather. "We do what we must to survive." Obinna stepped closer. "Survive? By killing our own people? By sacrificing young men who did nothing?" His voice cracked, pain pushing through his anger. Chief Okonko reached for a calabash bowl beside him. Inside were kola nuts. He picked one and broke it with his fingers as he spoke. "Tell me, Obinna, do you want famine?" He let the pieces of kola nut fall into his palm. They sizzled. "Do you want sickness to sweep this village?" Obinna's breathing grew heavy. He thought of the dry stream. He thought of the yams that grew smaller every year. He thought of the hungry children he had seen crying weeks before. But why Chisom? Why anyone? Why must human beings pay? Chief Okonko leaned forward. The firelight reflected in his eyes.
he said quietly, "Because Ajo is older than this village, older than your grandmother, older than the stories, older than memory." His voice dropped even lower, nearly a whisper. Ajo is hunger itself. Obinna felt his skin crawl. Chief Okonko continued, "When the land starves, Ajo must feed, and if Ajo does not eat," he looked at Obinna, his eyes deep and empty, "then the whole village does." Obinna swallowed hard. His throat felt tight. His chest felt heavy. His legs felt weak. He wanted to argue. He wanted to shout. He wanted to throw something. But his voice came out small. "So you choose who dies?" Chief Okonku nodded slowly. "We choose who the village can afford to lose." Obinna felt his heart break. Chisom had been chosen, not by fate, not by gods, but by men. Men who feared hunger more than they feared sin. Men who believed survival required sacrifice. Chief Okonko leaned closer until Obinna could feel with feet off his breath. He whispered, "Ajo is hungry, Obinna, and hunger must be satisfied."
Obinna left the shrine with his heart pounding like thunder. His legs felt weak, but he forced them to move. The sky was dark now, only a thin moon watching him as he hurried home. He pushed open the door. His grandmother, Obioma, was sitting on a small wooden stool. A lantern flickered beside her. Her hands were clasped tightly together, trembling. Obinna did not wait. He didn't breathe. The words burst out of him. "Why didn't you tell me everything?" Obioma did not look up. The room was silent except for the faint night wind. Obinna's voice cracked, anger and fear mixing in his chest. "You warned me, but you didn't tell me why. You didn't tell me what the elders did. You didn't tell me what that thing is." Obioma closed her eyes. Tears slid down her wrinkled cheeks. She didn't wipe them. She didn't speak at first. She let the tears fall, like she had been holding them for many years. Finally, her voice came. Soft, broken, tired. "I lost your father to that masquerade." The world went still. The lantern flame flickered. Obinna felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. "What?" he whispered. Obioma's lips trembled as she continued. "Years ago, when you were still in my belly, the Ajo Masquerade walked. The village was starving. The elders said a sacrifice was needed. 20 young men were chosen." Obinna felt cold wash through his body. His father, a man he had never known, a man he had only heard stories about. Brave, strong, kind. "What happened to him?" he asked, though his voice was barely a sound. Obioma stared into the lantern flame as if the fire itself held the memory. He was taken into the forest with the others. The drumming followed them, the singing, the chanting, and then silence. Obinna's throat tightened. Tears burned behind his eyes. "He never came back?" Obioma slowly shook her head. "No, not alive." She looked up, and her eyes were full of a pain that had lived too long. Obinna swallowed hard, his hands shaking. "Mama, my father, is he still out there?" Obioma nodded slowly. Her voice was just a whisper now. "His body walks, but his soul is gone." The room felt smaller. The darkness felt heavier. The silence felt alive. Obinna sat down very slowly, his mind spinning, his heart aching, his breath unsteady. His father had not died. He had been taken. Just like Chisom. Just like the others.
And now, Obinna knew exactly what the elders had planned next, because the masquerade had looked at him. It had chosen him.
The festival was reaching its peak. The drums grew louder, echoing through the night like thunder. Men and women danced with frantic energy, their faces painted, their feet moving as if the rhythm had taken control of their bodies. Fires burned higher, casting long, flickering shadows across the village. But with the celebration came fear. More and more people began to vanish. Children who had been laughing a moment ago were nowhere to be found. Friends disappeared while talking to one another. The villagers tried to stay calm, but whispers of panic spread faster than the flames. And the masquerade, it had changed too. It no longer waited for the festival night. It appeared whenever it wanted, silently, without warning. Its hunger had grown. It prowled through the village like a predator, its presence making the air heavy, thick with fear. The elders tried to calm everyone, but even they seemed unsure. Mothers clutched their children, fathers barred doors and windows, yet nothing could stop it. The village that had once laughed and danced was now trapped in a nightmare. Obinna watched from the shadows, his heart pounding. He had seen what it did to Chisom. He had heard the whispers, and deep down, he knew the masquerade was not finished. One moonless night, the masquerade entered the village square. There were no drums, no chants, no warnings, only silence and the feeling of eyes watching. It moved slowly, deliberately, like it could smell fear in every heart. Its costume rustled, bones clinking together, shadows twisted around it, swallowing the torchlight. It stopped at each home. Those who locked their doors heard scratching, soft, hungry, like claws on wood. Those who whispered prayers heard laughter, low, cruel, echoing in the walls. Those who tried to flee never reached the gate. By dawn, 10 people were gone. Families wept, mothers screamed, fathers cursed the gods. Umueze was drowning in sorrow and terror. Obioma gathered the last of her strength and called Obinna to her side. Her hands trembled as she placed them on her shoulders. "There is only one way to stop it," she said, her voice like the wind over dry leaves. "You must destroy its mask. The spirit lives in the mask. If the mask breaks, the evil ends." Obinna swallowed hard, fear and courage battling in his chest. How do I reach it?" he asked. She looked at him with haunted eyes. "You don't," she whispered. "It comes for you. You are the one it has chosen." Suddenly, the drums began again, louder than ever. The sound shook the ground. It was not music. It was a heartbeat. The heartbeat of something hungry. The heartbeat of death. Obinna stepped into the center of the village, gripping a burning torch. His hands did not shake. His heart beat steadily, though fear ran like ice through his veins. "Mama," he whispered, "watch me." The shadows grew. The wind whistled through the empty streets. And then it appeared. Ajo. Its eyes glowed like coals. Its mask seemed alive, pulsing, breathing. Its claws scraped the ground, sending sparks from the stones. Obinna raised his torch and ran towards it. The masquerade lunged, faster than he imagined. He dodged, feeling the wind of its movement. With every step, the ground seemed to shake. Then, with a scream that echoed through the night, Obinna leapt forward and struck the mask with all his strength. The mask cracked. A sound like shattering bones filled the air. Light burst from within it.
A scream, human and inhuman, ripped through the village. The masquerade twisted and writhed, then fell to the ground. Smoke rose from the costume. Silence followed. The evil was gone. The spirit trapped in the mask could harm no one again. The villagers slowly emerged from their homes, their faces pale but alive. Tears ran freely. They whispered Obinna's name. Obioma dropped to her knees, exhausted but smiling. "You have done it," she said. Obinna looked at the broken mask, breathing heavily. He had faced the darkness and survived. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories. Like, share, and drop your comment below.